Here's our review of Swiss Air Business Class on the Airbus A330. We flew using points from Zurich, Switzerland to New York City, JFK. Is it worth it?
I have mixed feelings about this flight.
I think we'd say yes if you're really valuing laying down for a longer flight, but you might want to choose something else if you have better options. So it really depends on the price in cash or points that you're paying. We'll explain why, and we'll highlight Maddie's absolute favorite part of the experience.
When you check in at the airport, you get priority baggage, so that means that your bag should come out earlier at baggage claim.
Okay, we'll talk about the seat and the one part that I really did not like, although overall, again, it's probably worth it for a lot of situations. But first, let's talk about Maddie's favorite part, which is the business class lounge.
This business class lounge at the Zurich airport was beautiful. They also had a senator's lounge, which we had access to with our tickets, but we didn't have time to go visit. That would be something to check out in the future. But strictly talking about the Swiss business class lounge at Zurich, it was crowded, but there was still plenty of seating, no overcrowding issues. The food was good. They had a lot of options. They even had chef cooking food there in front of you that you could get right away. Decent drink options, nice coffee. And my favorite part of this lounge was that you could go outside. They had a viewing deck outside, and they had binoculars so you could look at the mountains and just take in that fresh air.
There's no bartender in the lounge, so you're gonna mix your own drinks, which I found just fine. You can make them faster, but if you're looking for a specialty cocktail, that's not gonna happen. They did have kind of a limited selection of wine.
They made sure to have wine from, I think it was Switzerland, Germany, and France, and maybe the US as well. So they tried to have a good mix, but it was limited as far as the blends of wine. Another part of the lounge that I really liked was the different seating options available. So there were tables, couches, there were nice comfy leather chairs, which is what we opted for, and then a quiet area where you could fully recline, and it was a no phone area.
They had private booths in case you wanted to do some computer work.
Yeah, so they had free Wi-Fi included, and it worked well in the lounge. But they did have these cute little cubicles with lights, and you could actually shut the door and have some privacy and get some work done.
Let's talk about the boarding process.
We did have priority boarding, which meant that we did get to board first. And when you walk on the plane, they are handing out welcome drinks, so we did have a nice glass of champagne right when we got to our seats. Each person in business class had their own overhead bin, so no worrying about that baggage space.
You can see the seating chart on Swiss.com. It's pretty clear, except one part is kind of hard to make out, so I'll show an image on the screen here. It turns out odd number rows, if you sit in seat G, it's more exposed to the aisle, and that's where Maddie sat. She'll talk about that in a second. The even number rows, it's D that's more exposed to the aisle. I was sitting less exposed to the aisle, so pretty much my tray and stuff was on the aisle, so I thought that was just fine, but you felt a little more exposed.
I just had less privacy. My tray table or counter space was in between our seats. We sat in seats 7D and 7G in the middle. That meant that my counter space was in between us, and then on the aisle, I just had an armrest, and there was no wall or divider between my feet and the aisles.
There was plenty of leg room with the seats, about 6 feet, almost 6 inches. We were able to lay down, relax, and potentially go to sleep. So here's my big issue, is that there's no mattress pad. On other business class flights, you can request it or they just give it to you, and of course that makes it a lot more comfortable. If you like a very firm seat, like you're sleeping on an airplane seat, then it's just fine. But if you want to feel like it's a little bit of a mattress or foam or something, that is not going to happen. That was my little gripe for this. The other thing was, for us it didn't matter that there was no divider between the seats that are together because we wanted to be close together. But if you do want a divider, because you're sitting next to a stranger, you just want that privacy, that also doesn't exist in these seats. So my tray table kept getting stuck. Not a minor thing, but just something that happened on a particular flight.
When you board this Airbus A330, you'll notice it's a little bit more dated than other business class flights that you see nowadays. Something else that we noticed was that the entertainment options, they did have plenty of movies, but the screen itself was a bit smaller. It's about 12.4 inches. The amenities kit was also pretty basic. So you had socks, an eye mask, lip balm, toothpaste, a toothbrush, but no pajamas, no slippers. Seats, as they do come with a massaging feature. Tried it and it was pretty weak. Another thing about these seats is that there's not a lot of storage at your actual seat. You have this cubby in front of you under your screen. But aside from that, you don't have a cabinet or personal storage at your seat. So if you have anything with you that you don't want to keep in the overhead bin and you prefer to keep at your seat, it might be on the ground.
We're going to let you in on a storage insider secret, which we did not know about. Apparently, if you put your coat on the little hanger, the attendant will take it for you and return it to you later.
Basically, it's a coat check.
We didn't know about that. We kind of missed out on that. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it's something to know.
Yeah, we stuffed our coats in the overhead bin and they were fine.
So let's talk about the food.
The food wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. For an appetizer, we had smoked salmon, and for our main course, we both had the braised beef and red wine sauce. And then for a light meal or a snack, we had the prawns. Our flight was not an overnight flight, it was a daytime flight, so we didn't have the breakfast options.
They had pretty standard drink options as well for alcohol or coffee, tea, that kind of stuff. I found the service on that end a little bit slow for business class for what we've experienced before. But we call it like acceptable, but you're not going to be wowed by it. At least we weren't on our flight. And I think that's kind of the theme of this review is that, you know, if you mostly value laying down and being comfortable and having a really nice lounge, at least in Zurich, then you should book this and it's worth it. If you're trying to be wowed, if you're trying to have like a really special experience, this is probably not that. So you might want to look for something else if that's what you're really going for.
Okay, so was Swiss business class on the Airbus A330 worth it?
Yes, because I did not pay much money. I used points, and it was totally worth it to lay down and fly across the Atlantic Ocean, and because we had a nice lounge experience. I would say it's not worth it for you if you don't value paying that much in cash, if you're paying cash, or if you want an experience that's elevated, that's going to be a memory of a lifetime. But if business class is something that you don't get to do very often, or you just value that part, then go ahead and book it. Overall, I think we'd say this was an acceptable business class experience, and we're very grateful for the ability to do this. It's just not something that goes above and beyond compared to other business class options that exist now. If you enjoyed this review, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with someone who's also considering this flight. And you can join our email list so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos on touchdownmoney.com.